A lot's been happening in the Indian agrochemical space. There's been a lot of M&A activity. There's been a lot of acquisitions. There's been a lot of improved margins and improved demand outlook for a lot of local agrochemical producers. Now, obviously, India's leading company, UPL, as far as agrochemical is concerned, has had a bit of a tough bout lately. While peers such as PI Industries have just taken over completely, the market cap of PI Industries is now well above that of UPL. And while UPL may be a larger company by revenue and may have a larger footprint globally, as far as profitability and valuation is concerned, PI Industries has definitely now been recognized as the leader and India's most valuable agchem company. Now let's talk about UPL and what happened, right? UPL used to be a fairly large, domestic-oriented agrochemical player that obviously had an export business, but it was always headquartered here in India. What recently changed with a $4 billion transaction, which UPL financed entirely by debt, was the Arista acquisition, which is basically a agrochemical-focused company based market-wise, based more towards North America and European markets. This acquisition was done with debt that was brought onto the UPL balance sheet, but at the time it looked like the potential synergies of $200 million per year plus the additional EBITDA that would come in from Arista would trade here in India at a fair, decent multiple, and that justified the transaction. It also kept the debt to equity within permissible limits and that the interest coverage would be fine. People felt confident that UPL could service this debt. Since then, we've had a one-way slide-off for this stock. There's obviously been a few corporate governance issues. The most recent was the auditor resignation in the Mauritius unit. That caused a large tremor on the Lal Street, but then Mr. Jai Shroff came forward and clarified that it was more to do with workload as opposed to the accounting practices. What's very alarming today, that's got the stock down over 12% in trade. It literally fell off in the morning, hit lower circuit of 10%, then fell another 4% after that, was the fact that there's been a whistleblower accusation that UPL entered into rent deals with shell companies owned by its employees and paid crores of rupees in rent for properties held by the latter, which was earlier owned by UPL chief Jai Shroff himself. So this is something that's caused a lot of alarms. Mr. Jai Shroff came on the channel this morning and clarified that this is all malicious intent of some people to tarnish the reputation of the company. But nonetheless, when you have $4 billion of debt, and you have had auditors resign, and all of this has happened in the span of the last 2-3 months, one can understand why that stock has taken such a large beating, which seems to be continuing today. If you believe that UPL is in fact innocent of all the charges, such a fall might present a great entry point, but for now the street isn't buying it. We're still down 14% in trade halfway through the session. Let's see how we wind up to close.